Hi all, I'm Cullen Haynes and welcome to Law Live. Happy Wednesday, and it's great to be back after a little hiatus after being in both the Disney cruise and Japan with my family, and coming out with a bang. The gentleman I'm about to introduce is a good friend of mine and has had 40 years in the legal profession. That's 40. A leading partner at HWL and been there for the last 11 years. Could you please make very welcome the legal and BD dynamo that is Mr. Harry Cormack. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thanks, Cullen, and thank you for those generous words. I think they're perhaps a little bit overstated, but I'll take them. Thank you.
No, of course. And everyone's wanting to know what is happening in your circle of influence on the build-up towards Christmas time.
Look, I think it's... Personally, I've actually just recently moved house. I bought an off-the-plan property, which took a few years to complete, but it's been a great success. And I'm now living the good life in Neutral Bay and catching the ferry to work on a regular basis. I'm working towards Christmas. Christmas is a time when everything has to happen on before Christmas Day. Otherwise, the world ends, as you know. And my team and my colleagues in the banking fraternity and the banking clients are busily working away. It's perhaps not quite as busy as it has been in previous years, but there's still a lot of activity out there, and we're working to make sure that we get funding through so people's dreams can be filled for Christmas.
I love that. Dreams in driveways for the car loans, and then people in their dreams for the home loans, which is what you do. So well done. Yeah. And I've noticed.
Well, more particularly, I think it's not so much home loans. Our role is more in the commercial sense, but there's lots of people who have dreams in the commercial sense who are actually looking to get things.
Of course. So we've seen a huge uptick in the last few months, in the last 6 months on that. Would you say you've seen a lot of commercial activity as well?
Look, I think there's no doubt there's continuing activity out there. The interest rates obviously have caused a little bit of anxiety and hesitation, but I think a lot of people are keeping their powder dry and looking forward to the 2024. I think the recent decision by the Reserve Bank not to put the rates up is going to actually help with people's confidence. So look, it is busy, but as I said, I don't think it's quite as busy as it was this time last year.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, I would encourage people, it is currently now 12:28 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Could you please put your questions for this powerhouse in the comments section? We're streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and we've already got, it's coming up as first-time LinkedIn user, but first time here, it's Tracy Tyrrell Van Her who's streaming in, so thank you for that there, Tracy. But put your comments in. I'd love to delve in a little bit of a fun question to get us going. There, Harry, how would you explain or talk about your life using just film titles, would you say?
Interesting question, out of left field, as usual, Colin. I suppose there's a couple of movies that come to light. One is From Here to Eternity. I think it's an oldie but a goodie. But I think the theme behind it, of course, is that life's a full journey, and I want to live it to the full. And so I guess I try to live my life every day on the basis that it's going to be a long life, and I've got a lot of things I need to achieve. I think the other couple of movies I would think one would be Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner. People may recall there was a wonderful line in that: "If you build it, they will come." And I think that if we build our relationships, if we do the work we do well, then the success will follow. And I think that's something which I find inspiring. And I did feel and Kevin Costner did a great job in that movie. And look, the other one I think is Forrest Gump. And Forrest Gump was a great movie, a classic, but it had two classic lines which feature a lot in my thoughts. Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. I think that's very true. And I think the other one that Forrest came up with was Shit Happens. And I think we need to learn how to actually avoid that as we're running along the road, and making sure that we keep our shoes as clean as possible, and but face the reality that it will happen.
Of course. Life won't all be smiles and rainbows. And I think Forrest Gump articulates that very poignantly in Forrest Gump, one of my favorite movies too. Well said there, Harry. And you touched on relationships, and if you build it, they will come. How important is relationships in what you do every day, and what you've done, not only in 11 years at HWL, but also the last 40 years in law?
I think relationships are fundamental to everything we do. It's the cement that actually allows us to achieve the things we need to achieve. As a lawyer, I love the law, I love the practice of the law, and I love knowing about the law. But unless I have relationships with people, I can't actually use that law to knowledge of the law to be able to achieve things. I think it's fair to say that in my case, in a large law firm, we have a lot of appointments to panels, and it's always difficult getting appointed to those panels. You have to go through a lot of hoops to get there. But people think, well, you're on the panels, that's great. But that really is only a ticket to a game. Basically, when you get onto a panel, you then have to make sure that when you're on the field, that the client will actually kick the ball to you to give you the opportunity to play the game that you want to play for them. And to do that, the person your client who has given you the ticket needs to, one, know that you exist and that you are on the field. Secondly, they have to know that you've got the competence to be able to deliver for them, which you probably have, otherwise you wouldn't have been appointed. But thirdly, they've got to actually like you and want to give you the work. So I think if you don't have relationships with your clients, then the ability to deliver and to use the knowledge and the skills that you have to help make life better for people will not happen.
No, it's such a good point that you raise. And it's similar to in broking land. I remember when we started our business in 2018, obviously we got accredited, right? And everyone thinks getting accredited as a broker, getting on the bank's lending panel and whatnot and it's like, that's just the beginning. Now you've got to go out and build a business, get clients, get them to trust you. And it's hard from a standing start. And obviously you've gone through iterations in your life, I'm sure, having to start again and build those networks and leverage them. So I think what I found endearing about you, Harry, is we first met obviously over LinkedIn, but then we had a coffee and it took it to another emotional level. And I know you're a big advocate of, in a digital age, still meeting people face to face. Do you still think face to face has a place and it's important in building relationships?
Cullen, I don't think you can have a full and proper relationship with someone unless you have the opportunity to meet them face to face. Certainly during COVID, we all found skills in social media and in Teams calls, and Zoom was very important because that was the only way we could do it. But the one thing I'm delighted about is the opportunity to actually now meet with clients face to face. I have a philosophy that says that I need to understand my clients and what they want. And the only way to actually really understand them is to actually be in a room with them. I think it was Hamilton, the musical. There's a wonderful song in there that where I think Alexander Hamilton says, you've got to be in the room where it happens. And I think that's not on the Zoom call, it's actually in the room. And so I think personal contact is important. There's certainly a place for social media and for digital communication, but like yesterday, my team and I were up at Newcastle on a regional tour, and we were visiting a number of our clients, and we were presenting the HWL School of Money, which is a training session we offer to our clients. And the fact that I was able to be in a room and actually see people face to face meant the messages got through much more clearly, and we felt that we were delivering a much better quality communication.
I like what you're saying there, because we've all been on those Zoom calls where everyone is silent, everyone has their camera off. And we do many lunch and learn presentations for our staff benefits offering to our the top 50 firms. And it's the same experience. Like when you do a large one over Zoom, it's very different to being in person, because as Jim Rohn says, you can make eye contact, you can read the room, you can see if points land. I do feel that online, it's very hard for people to develop those skills and see if they're building that rapport, because you don't get that feedback. Luckily, we get people at the end saying, yeah, correct.
I think the other thing, you also have the ability to interact with people in a way which you can't on a Zoom call. And so that is also helpful for communication. But yeah, look, if you can't talk to people in person, then obviously certainly going to digital helps. And we've been very fortunate that our digital skills have increased enormously as a result of COVID. But give me a room any day and I'll take it over a Zoom call.
Me too. I'm with you. I'm picking up what you're putting down indeed there, Harry. And I would ask you this, we touched on it before, you've had 40 years in the legal space. Not to put you on the spot, but if you could look back on those last 40 years and obviously the 40 years ahead, what are the three most important things you've learned, do you think, so far?
Well, I think there's a lot of different lessons at different stages. But I guess in thinking about this, there were three things I'd say. The first is have patience. And there's a wonderful, I think it's an Irish prayer or proverb, which says, God, give me the strength to change the things I can, the patience to accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I found whether it's actually rearing children, having a friendship with on a social basis, or doing something commercially in business, that philosophy works. You can't do everything you want to do, and you have to decide what are the really important issues. There's not many areas where I'm going to take a bullet to over something, but there are some. They're really important, but in many cases there's another solution to it. So patience and judgment on that is the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say is listen, and listen well. I think we've had this conversation before, and I told you that one of the books that I read many years ago was by Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of Stephen Covey's habits was seek first to understand and then to be understood. And that is something which I preach to my team on a regular basis. And it's really, really important. If you ask, in a legal sense, if a client asks for a document A, B, and C, and we give them document A, B, and C, and then they come back to us later and say they didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve, who's at fault? I tell my team, well, you're at fault, because the question should have been, what do you want? Document A, B, and C. What do you think it's going to do for you? And then when the answer comes back, you're then able to say, well, look, I've considered that. That won't achieve that. You need document X, Y, Z. So I think listening and working out what the client really wants, not what they say they want, but what they really want and what they really need, is very, very important. So listening well is important. And the other thing I think it's important to be very positive and upbeat and solution focused. As a lawyer, and I say to my team, we never say no to clients. You can't do that. We might say you can't do it in that particular way, but there's probably another solution for this. So I think it's important to be solution focused as well, and be alert to the fact that there are many, many options out there, particularly in the digital world in which we live.
No, very well said. I really am indeed by those 3 points there, Harry. And I think Stephen Covey, he's passed away now, but 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is a great book. And one that I really loved, I think it's sharpen the saw is another skill in there.
Yes,
and it's,
yes.
If you're good, I think Abraham Lincoln once said, if I'm going to spend 12 hours cutting down a tree, I'll spend 11 hours sharpening the saw. And I really love that concept of being prepared, I think,
Yes.
and, bringing your best self to every interaction. But another one of the principles that I know is a trademark of your good self, we were in our first or second coffee together, and you said, Cullen, I'm a big believer in the Spice Girls principle. And I asked, what is the Spice Girls principle? And I'll let you tell me what that is, because I think it's fantastic.
Well, it plays into the importance of listening that I mentioned before. And look, it's something which is very corny, and it causes my staff to cringe whenever I raise it. But it always brings a smile to people's faces. Although I must say, as people are getting older, the Spice Girls are becoming less and well known by a number of people. But it's that song, the Spice Girls thing about tell me what you want, what you really, really want, and I'll give it to you. Okay. And so one of the things we like to do is for our clients is basically tell them that's the quality of the service we give. And I think corny though it might be, it is very, very real, and it applies to every area of the law. The work that you do, the work that I do, the work the doctor does, the work that the accountants do, the work the plumber does. All of these things you need to be told, tell me what you want. I want the drain fixed, and I want the tap to stop dripping if it's a plumbing situation. In my case, it's a case of you want to be able to achieve a particular result. Okay, you can't do it that way, but you can do it this way. So, listening is important, and I think we like to think we're giving Posh's advice on the Spice Girls.
I think Posh and Scary, Ginger Baby, and Sporty would all be proud, all 5 of them, let me tell you. And I think they're due to make a comeback, because I'm seeing a lot of memorabilia and whatnot being sold that usually says they're coming back. So hopefully that boosts the consciousness in the public eye, so people won't give you blank stares next time you tell them about the Spice Girls principle, Harry. Very good. Any passion projects you're working on now that you're able to share with us, and people be interested to know about?
Look, I think it's fair to say that my colleagues and I HWL is the largest independent law firm in Australia by partner. We've got over 280 partners. We're in every state and territory. We've got a big national footprint, and we're constantly looking to improve and grow our presence in the market. And I think it's fair to say that I'm the state head of the banking and finance team in Sydney, and I'm working closely with our national head, Ben Burney, and we're looking to build the best banking practice in the country. And we've got a number of things happening which will be announced in the future. And we're looking at improving excellence, but looking at improving a range of things. So I think, firstly, that's a big project for us, and one which is going to obviously preoccupy our time going forward.
No, it sounds exciting. And in terms of switching gears a little bit, if there's anything you'd like to see change in law or the profession, what would you like to see change, Harry?
Look, there are a number of areas of law that need to be reformed, and I think we've seen with COVID how changes came to execution of documents, exchanging of information, provision, dealing with government departments and so on, in a way which would never have happened or would have taken many, many years to happen. So we've seen a lot of reforms happening in the actual areas of the law themselves. I guess I would just like to think that the one thing that's been a pet hate of mine, of course, is people giving undertakings. In the undertakings, it's very important, anybody giving an undertaking, but especially a lawyer, only to give it if you actually are able to deliver on it. So don't promise to deliver a document if you haven't got it in your hands. You can use your best endeavours to get it to people. So if you give an undertaking, make sure that your word is your bond, and never give it if you don't. And the other thing I would simply say to people is don't judge, get all the facts. I think that young lawyers need to be aware that you have to have all the facts before you can give a proper advice. We often go to parties and lunches and people ask you a question and they'll give you 3 facts and they'll say, do you think I'm going to get off on this particular case, or do you think I can win this case? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know all the facts. So I guess they're the 2 things. Undertakings, make sure you can honour them. And secondly, get all the facts before you give proper advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't write checks you can't cash. And, say you, and I agree with what you're saying about don't make promises you can't keep and whatnot. I think it's important that you say you'll move heaven and earth, but you can't guarantee the actual outcome. You just say you're going to do our very best. And I think that's what Roosevelt said. Once you've given it to your best shot, don't worry about anything else. You know what you gave on the day. Lessons for young professionals. This is a good one. So if you're a young legal professional starting your journey in law, be sure to put your questions in the comments, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. But what are your lessons for young professionals starting their career? What would you wish you knew 40 years ago, Harry?
Look, I think it comes back to my comment about relationships being so important. Young lawyers are highly qualified. They've got good academic qualifications. They get good practical training by working with good partners in whatever firm they're working in. But if your aim and goal is to work in private practice at some stage or other and to be a partner in a law firm, you need to have clients. You need to have a business case that can make that happen. And as I said before, the only way you can actually do that is if you have clients, if you have relationships, you have clients who will give work to you, because you can be the best lawyer in town. If you've got no work to do or no clients giving you work, then you're not going to make a living out of it, and you're not going to be able to sustain a practice. So I think relationships are important. I learned that lesson many, many years ago when my first child was being born. We were visiting the obstetrician who was giving us one of the pre-birth visits, and this gentleman had the best bedside manner of anyone I've ever met. He knew everything about me. He knew my football team. He knew where I worked. He knew what my favorite color was. He knew what ice cream I liked. It was just extraordinary. And during one of these meetings, he got called out, and I took the time to pull his notes over, and I realized that he'd actually written all this information down. And people said to me, well, didn't that make you cynical? He didn't really remember it at all. And I said, no, it didn't. What it made me realize is that I need to start doing this. And that from a very early age, back in those days, it was a little black book. Now it's obviously your iPhone or your computer. But I think there's nothing more powerful than remembering people and meeting them and then asking them about the future, because people think and know that you care if you've taken the time to do that. So my suggestion to young lawyers is build your relationships and start now. The other thing that I say to young lawyers is make sure that you are passionate about what you do and keep asking questions. Go back to first principles. Never do something unless you know why you're doing it. Always know the reason.
Very good. I absolutely love that. I'm putting that up for anyone that didn't see it. So we've got, obviously build relationships, start now, and should be passionate, but it says passionate, but just be passionate, I would say, as well. When all is said and done, Harry, I know this is a bit morbid, but obviously you think about living life to the full every day. When all is said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
Look, I guess I'd like not to be forgotten, I suppose. Is the but really, I don't really care how I'm remembered. My view is that I do what I believe is right. I do the best that I can for my clients. I try and do the best, in particular, for my family and my friends. And at the end of the day, I'm happy to be judged by that. If I had to put some words down about what people would think about me, I might say, look, he was honest. He was a passionate problem solver, and one who cared about people. But as I said, to be honest, I think I am at one with myself, and I do what I believe is right. I do what I believe is correct, and I'm happy to be judged on those efforts.
No, and I think you're living proof, and you're in the embodiment of all those things that you said there, Harry. And I think it's really spot on. And look, really appreciate your time chatting to us today. We'll come back with some bonus questions. Where are you hanging out most? Where can people get in touch with you if they wanted to grab a coffee or talk to you about a matter?
Yeah, look, our office is in Australia Square, which is in George Street, and there's some good coffee shops around here. And if anyone's interested in getting touching base, we do have a website, and there's a digital access. So digital is good in many respects, and certainly, obviously, I'm on LinkedIn, as people would be aware.
Very good. Okay, fantastic. Well, thanks again for being here today. We'll bring you back there, Harry. Just wanted to say you're a shining star. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Colin.
Good man. And if you're a legend of law, or you know someone who is, and you'd like to be on the show as well, feel free to reach out, and we'll schedule something in the new year, as we're booked out to the rest of the year. We'll come out with Harry's episode in due course on where Apple and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're doing a backlog at the moment. We just come out with Charles Lowenhop and Brett Gooden's episode 36. So this is episode 48. So we'll get the backlog uploaded and get Harry's episode maybe not towards the end of this year, but the start of next year. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We come out every Wednesday. Bye for now. Bringing you back, Harry, I've got 2 bonus questions that I wanted to bring up. If you could explain your role in law to a 6-year-old, how would you go about doing that?
Tough question. I have 2 5-year-old twin grandsons, and I'm not sure what they think I do. Their father's also a lawyer. Their uncle's also a lawyer. And so I'm not sure they know what we do. I think I would say, if you want to watch a particular TV program like Bluey, and mum says no, you go and see Granddad and ask Granddad if he could actually make a case to mum for me to be given the opportunity to watch Bluey, and submissions would be made, not in writing, but they would be made verbally, and we would rest our case. If all else failed and that submission didn't work, we would then take it to the higher court, which would be grandma or dad, and we would say, ask mum to be understanding and say, we're not trying to supervene it, but this would be a really important opportunity. So that's one way I explain to a 6-year-old about what lawyers do.
I love that. I think that's so novel. Bluey taking over the world and asking granddad to intervene and to get mum to change her mind.
You probably are well aware of Bluey because of your recent entry into fatherhood. I think it's probably fair to say that Bandit, who is Bluey's dad, is the archetypal goal that all fathers are seeking to be. So I'm sure Bandit would take a similar approach. Yes.
I think so. I think so. We just got into the Wiggles recently. So Bluey's next on the agenda. Let me tell you, case in point, here he is down here. And if you could give yourself advice at any age, what advice would that be if you could go back in time, Harry?
I think there's that expression which says, "To thine own self be true," and I think that's what I'd say. Just be honest with yourself, learn to like yourself, learn to live with yourself, and be with happy who you are, because only then can you provide love, affection, attention, concern for your family and your clients and your friends.
That's an amazing feedback to give. When do you think you would have been ready for that feedback? Would it have been high school or younger or older?
I don't think you realize at high school how important that really is. But I think that as you decide to progress onto a career, I suspect that probably in my late 20s and early 30s, I think it became apparent. Perhaps I was a bit too cocky in the earlier stages to realize that. I think there's the expression, it's hard being humble when you know you're as great as you are. Well, I think humility is something which comes later in life, and it's something which becomes us all, I think. And I'm hopefully a humble but confident individual.
You definitely are that, Harry, and I really appreciate your candor and well thought out questions to those bonus ones. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for everyone tuning in.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Colin, and have a lovely Christmas and a successful end to the business year. Okay. Thanks, Colin.
You too. Likewise. All the best. Thank you, Harry.
Bye-bye.